Hello, everyone. Once again, I'd like to welcome you to another wonderful episode of the Keith Harris Show Global Network right here on Hot Line Radio. Today, on the show, on the line with us, we have a very special guest, April Rain. She is a wonderful author, has done a lot of books, plenty of wonderful books that she's about to talk to us about right now. So without any further ado, let's get into it. How are you doing, April?
I am fantastic. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We're honored to have you on the show today. Let me start off asking you, I always ask this question, how's your day been? What's the weather like in your area?
It's rainy and cloudy,
Oh, wow.
and unlike California.
Yeah, I know. Not too long ago, I believe, I don't know if might have been your area in particular, but you guys got some rain also maybe about a week and a half ago or so?
Right. We're getting rain now, too, in Southern California. It's drizzling.
Do you feel like it's needed any at all?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, we are in such a drought. It is so needed.
Oh, okay. Now, all right. So I'll start out with asking, where did it all begin for you? How did you begin or realize, what made you realize that you wanted to be a writer?
Oh, it started when I was really young, which you probably hear from a lot of people when they have a craft. I was about 14 or 15, and I would write poetry. I was really into poetry. And so I did that throughout high school. And then in my early 20s, I started writing short stories. And that kind of took me into the story element of writing.
Okay. Now, actually, let's talk about this. Your first book, I know you were saying before, Enticing the Moon. What was that on? Yeah.
Enticing the Moon. Enticing the Moon was a book that I wrote in my late 20s, early 30s, and I wrote it for the females in my family. It was a romance novel, and I have a family of avid readers. And so, we would read books by, different various authors, and we would pass them around. And then I decided that I would sit down and I was going to write a book that I could give to each one of my family members, and they could read it. So that's where that started.
Okay. Did it have, now, was there something you enjoyed about the moon in general? Did you have any thoughts for the moon, or did you just say, hey, I'll pick the moon?
No, the moon, Enticing the Moon, there's a scene in the book where the two main characters are at a lake, and this is a moment of intimacy between them. And so the moon is full, and they're at the lake, and that's where I came up with the title, Enticing the Moon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it really doesn't have anything to do with the moon.
Okay. So let me ask you, I'll start by asking you, in your writings, have you ever collaborated with any other writers as well, or have you always written your books on your own? Or
I do. I have a couple projects that I've done. The first book in the Turning series, which is Bound to Darkness, was written with Eric Ariano, and that was his first book. It was my fourth book at the time. So I did collaborate with him, and most all of my projects, though, I do enjoy doing on my own.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Now, all right. How do you go about targeting your readers? Do you, when you get ready to write your stories, you sit down and write your stories, are they stories that you kind of feel they build up within inside yourself, or do you sometimes focus on what the people or the public might be interested in?
A little bit of both. I think it's a little bit of both. I think that as a writer, we have to write what touches ourselves and the things that we enjoy writing about. But I also believe that there is a public and an audience that enjoys a certain genres, and I think that if you can move into the genre that the audience enjoys, but also write so that you enjoy writing it, I think that that's really important. So I think it's a combination of the two.
Okay. Now, let's talk about one of your books now. We'll start with Disciples of the Damned series. How did that come about?
Yeah, my vampire biker series.
Everybody loves vampires, right?
Everyone loves vampires, and a lot of people like bikers, especially with like Sons of Anarchy and that type of thing. So, it's a friend of mine had come up with the concept, and he and I kind of worked together and built this world around vampire bikers. There's also werewolves and slayers in this series. What we did with this series, which is slightly different than a lot of my other series, is that I wrote each book as a short story, kind of like a 1-hour episode of Sons of Anarchy, So it was each one, there's 4 of them, which is like an episode, and then there's a season finale novel. So season 1 has been completed, and I'm working on season 2 right now.
Oh, wow. Okay. And then you, in the future, like you said, we can expect the whole grand finale to what happened. So the readers are going to have to keep up with each different book in order to get to the last part. So they can't just they can't just check out the first 1 or the first 2 or 3. They've actually got to go all the way to the end and be able to in order to see what's happening. That's a great way to keep and to capture and keep the reader's attention, by the way.
Right. And also, I mean, it's kind of like if I walked into watching, let's say, The Walking Dead right now, I'm going to be a little confused on what's going on or even where they all originated, all right, even how it all started. So I think it's kind of similar to that, where you could walk in on book 3, but I think it's important to start at book 1 and go through so you understand who the characters are and their development and where they're going and where they came from.
Right. Now, April, I got to ask you, when do you feel like you get your best stories out of you? Are you a night writer? Do you sit down during the day, the middle of the day, just sometime at a peaceful, quiet moment? Where do you pull it out of you?
I'll tell you, I try really hard to like maintain some kind of a normal life. So I try to go to bed at a decent time. I try to get up at a decent time. Prior to being a writer, I actually worked for a Fortune 500 company for 24 years. And so I'm I'm used to getting up in the morning and starting my day. And so I try and keep that the same. Although there are times in the morning I don't feel creative, I don't feel inspired. So I will write, but I'll write late into the evening, and sometimes it takes me until 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. But I try really hard because I want to have somewhat of a normal life. It's really hard if you're writing all through the early morning and then you're sleeping all through the day. It just makes it hard to, interact with friends and just do normal things.
Yeah, absolutely. And then that can get kind of crossing and controversial, because sometimes when you wake up in the morning, a lot of people, when they get up in the morning, even myself, your ideas sometimes are fresh. I know as soon as I jump out of the bed sometimes, something I couldn't think of last night just jumps in my brain all of a sudden as soon as I hop up. And it's
exactly.
Like, it took me hours to figure this out last night, and I woke up and it was right there.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
That's so true.
Yeah. So sometimes that happens. How long does it? Okay, your longest book that you've written so far, how long did it take you to write it?
My longest book.
Yeah.
My longest book. I would probably say,
it's
hard.
So
and
many, can you even?
I know.
Can you even remember when your longest one?
I know. It's interesting because I think at various stages of my writing career, I think I've obviously over time I've grown as an author. So I have, in the beginning, I was kind of winging it and not really knowing, not having my own structure, let's say, in developing a story. And I think now, after I've written 30 books, I think that I have a structure so I can write a longer book, and it can take a shorter period of time to do it. But I would say recently I wrote the 3rd book in the Imprint trilogy, which is Hash. And that one was really long, but it took me about 2 months. 2 months to write.
Okay. Now, was that 2 months of writing every day, or were you able to take a day off? Or
writing every day, but I try, again, going back for that quote unquote normal life. I try to take weekends and enjoy family, and other things that I enjoy doing, other hobbies that I have. I try and do those on the weekends. So I do write every single day, but there are times when maybe Saturday or Sunday I'll let myself write a little less.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I listened to you before. Did you say 30 books?
Yeah, about 30 books.
About 30 books.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. And that's over a time span of how many years,
April? Well, probably since I published my first book on Amazon, which was January 2011.
Oh,
so
wow.
Coming up on 4 years, yeah.
Is that the average? Now, you may not know. I know this is a question you kind of can only speak for yourself about, but 30 books, I'm not a writer. I don't know, so forgive me. But that's a lot of, is that a lot of, considered to be a lot of books? And let's see, from now, and we're coming up on the end of 2014, obviously, but, we're talking now. So you obviously had kind of reached this number before the end of 2014. So let's just say from 2011 to 2014, 30 books. Is that considered to be a lot?
Well, I guess it depends. Again, I mean, I know I have author friends who are so prolific, they're writing, and releasing books every couple of weeks. And then there may take, one author that, it takes 10 years to finish the book that he's been working on or she's been working on. So, I mean, that's, I guess it just depends on the person. Is it a lot? I mean, it keeps me busy and it keeps me, it keeps me writing and it keeps my head going. But, I can't, it's like really hard to compare because, again, it may take someone longer to write something. And it also depends on what's going on in their life. I have a lot of author friends who have full-time jobs and they're trying to write as well. So, you know what I mean? It kind of just depends on each person, each individual.
Right. So in other words, because in some cases, some people will be confused into thinking that if it takes someone longer to write a book, that they might not be as good at writing a book, opposed to someone who can, kind of put books out at a faster pace.
Right.
But it doesn't always boil down to that. Sometimes it could just be what you have to do in everyday life.
Exactly.
Okay.
Absolutely
now,
true.
Talking about the characters a little while. How do you come up with your main characters? I know that varies. It depends on stories, but do you have a basic format for coming up with your characters? Like, do you come up with the character, the main character, before you start writing? Or can you find yourself just telling a story and then maybe, a few pages in, okay, bam, this is who the main character is going to be. This is the role they're going to be. How do you pick your main characters?
That's a good question. The first thing I come up with is like a what if question. So what if, an alien ship crashed on Earth and they had this alien metal that they transferred to a human. So that would be the first question, and that's the Imprint trilogy. So that would be the first question, what if? And once I kind of have that what if, I'll go into, because then I kind of have an idea of the story. I don't have the story, but I have an idea. And then I go into developing the two main characters most of the time. I focus on that. Usually it's two, maybe it's one. It just depends, but I'll focus on kind of the main character. Who is this main character? And then there's a bunch of what if questions that I give each one of the characters so that I can kind of understand who they are. But I think as an author, when I'm writing my books, I really don't know my characters the way I want to know them until I'm about midway through a book. And then I have a really good understanding of who they are.
Okay. Now this right here is this is a tricky question I'm going to ask you. Okay. And without giving too much away, have you ever written a book where you have taken the main character or any character in that book for that matter and put a piece of yourself in it? Like added a piece of your personality or just who you are. Like is there a book out there that when the readers are reading of yours that they're actually reading April and just don't know it?
Yeah, absolutely. There is one book. Hello?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. There is one book and there is one character in particular, and I have admitted this on other platforms, so it's, I'll say it here. And that is in the Mystical Witch series. It's Delia Hunt. And Delia is, I have so much of me in Delia. That book is the easiest book to write because I feel like I'm writing about myself in a sense, just with her. She has a lot of wit, and she's kind of bold, and she's, I have a lot of me in her. So
okay. And now let me ask you, okay, now that's the witch series. Do you like witches? Just well, not witches. Okay, let me rephrase that. All right. just that aura behind just the mysticalness, or do you delve that into your storytelling sometimes? Because again, a lot of people attract to those books. I love books like that, or movies and films like that. As a matter of fact, do you find that readers like to read about those types of natures, like the moon and different things like that?
In my personal experience, I absolutely love writing paranormal, and the reason is there's this base of paranormal that you want to follow, like with vampires, going out in sunlight, even though you can get around that, and some authors have. But there's this kind of like base that you follow with paranormal. But paranormal, you can do, if you can think it, you can do it. So I think with the paranormal genre, you have so much room for, to use your creative side. You can if you can think it, you can do it. So I think that is what I love most about writing, even in the sci-fi genre, even though you have to keep, some things true to what they are. You can create worlds that other people don't know exist. Right.
And now, speaking of that, I'm not sure if you can touch on that, because I know we're talking about the books right now, but you, if you can, without giving away too much, you also do a show dealing with the paranormal too, right?
It's not really dealing with the paranormal, although we try to, and you're talking about Uncovering California?
Okay.
Yes. Is that what you're talking about?
If that's tell us about Uncovering California.
Oh, well, Uncovering California is, it's a hobby, and it's something that we recently started over the past few months, probably around summertime. And so I have a website called uncoveringcalifornia.com, and then all our stuff is on YouTube. But what we do, and it gives me a lot of inspiration as well, but what we do is we visit different locations. So there are times when we'll visit locations that are, are known for ghosts or spirits. There are times, where we'll visit ghost towns, or one we visited an abandoned insane asylum. So things like that, and we'll give the viewer information about the place, and it's all on video, and it's fun, and I love doing it.
Okay. Sounds like it must be. Do you ever have you ever been to any location that has just really spooked you out?
Yeah, we have. A lot of the ghost towns are really kind of freaky, especially if you know the history of, and we try to brush up on the history of the location we go to before we actually go, so that, we have knowledge of it. And so some of the ghost towns are really kind of creepy. And then that insane asylum was in Long Beach was, it was scary. I mean, I kept hearing things behind me as we were walking, and it was very eerie. I think it was more eerie than scary.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That must have, I can imagine. What, in your books, are there messages in your books that you want the reader to be able to grasp?
When I write, I want the reader to feel that they are obviously a part of what's going on. And I want, when there's a fight scene, I want their heart pounding the way mine is while I'm writing it. I want them to feel the characters, and I want them to feel that they're as real as I feel they are. Because when I'm writing these characters and I'm writing their story, they feel very real to me. And so I want that to come across to my readers. I think that is what I would want more than anything.
Okay. Are there books that you have written that influence you, have had an influence even on yourself, or certain books that have influenced you the most yourself?
No. I mean, in what way?
Okay. Let's see.
I haven't.
Books. Okay, I'll take it back a bit. Okay, books that you have read, not necessarily books that you've written, but maybe books that you've read yourself in the past. Are there any books that have just influenced you?
I have a series, the Mancini Saga, and it's kind of a mystery thriller type series. But each one of the stories of the Mancinis, which I'm telling, there's 6 siblings, and I'm telling each one of their stories. And each one of those siblings, their story is based around real life things. The first one, which is called Carlo, and at one point was called IOU, is about a young girl who escapes from a cult in Connecticut. And there, wow. Yeah, and there are people that are in cults. And at the end of each book, I have someone write who has experienced this type of situation. I have them write, something to the reader. And I think that really, I enjoy that, but I really learn a lot as I'm doing the research. When I was researching cults in order to write that book, I think that, it really touched me. And although it's fiction, it's based on and can be based on real events.
Okay. And so there are, so when the reader, is reading taking in your books and having a good read, there are some things within those books that people can consider realistic, I suppose.
Absolutely. In that series, I would say yes. Absolutely.
Okay. Now, what projects do you have in the works right now? Now, don't tell us about the children's book yet. We're going to get to that. Okay. But otherwise,
I am working on a new sci-fi series, and it is called 3015. It's the Ghost Detective series, and it's obviously based in 3015, and it's really a lot of fun. It's going to be released by the end of January, and so that is my latest project aside from the one, but that is coming out in January. So I'm really excited about that one. It's a lot of fun, and I have to get really deep in my head to get into what we might have in 3015 as far as weapons and technology and everything. So.
Well, yeah, that's what I was getting ready to, because I got confused for a second when you said 3015. I'm thinking, okay, does she mean 1815 or something like that, right? But okay, so 3015. So you're kind of taking us into the future.
Future.
So now this must have been something, just sitting back, coming up with your own ideas of where the world might be in 3015.
Yeah, it's it's hard. It really is hard to write 3015. Although I will say in this book, there in 2240, there is a catastrophe that brings the world back to the Dark Ages. So, because it brings us back to the Dark Ages, then I'm able to build from that way forward. So pretty much 3015 is more far advanced than we are now, but not 1,000 years advanced. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yes, it does. It does. Because go ahead.
It all had to. If we go back to the Dark Ages because of what happens then in this book, then we have to rebuild, and it takes years and years and years to rebuild. So at a certain point they get to where we are today, and so then they have, maybe about 400 or 500 years to go past us. So I don't have to actually think, what will we have 1,000 years from now if there is no catastrophe, So it makes it a little easier.
I can actually see where you're coming from with that, because if you think about what it would have been like back then, and you can almost even overlook the present time and just create your own world, because if you kind of overlook the present time, it keeps it from getting in the way.
Absolutely.
yeah, it doesn't distract you, because then you can almost create the present time within the book.
That's right. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Okay. All right. So now let's talk about the children's book you have, Eddie Earth. And I'm going to tell you, I love this title. I know the kids are going to love it. And I want to know if this is already out, too, or when it's to be released. But Eddie Earth, this may sound strange, but this seems like a book that when I was in school, that I would have wanted to read. It's got a really a children's friendly title. It seems like it's going to be educational to read. But Eddie Earth and the Solar System.
Yes.
The rhyming book. Tell us about that.
I love this book. I mean, I really do. And, it's really funny because you think that I had someone I had mentioned, a line in this book that the sun says. And I had someone tell me, I didn't know that about the sun. And it's kind of funny because I put facts on each one of these planets, and I don't overwhelm the children. I give them a couple facts per planet. And it's funny because I know adults that didn't even know some of this stuff, which is really cool. It's so much fun. The characters, I had an artist draw the characters, and they are really, really cute. And I think that the kids are going to really love it. I'm still working on it. It's not out yet. I'm working on everything is done. I'm now just putting together the graphics. I'm at the end stages, so I'm excited to say that the book is going to be live and released this Saturday.
Oh, wow. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
This Saturday, as a matter of fact. Now, where will people, okay, now I know you've got books on Amazon. How about letting everyone know where they can go check your books out or purchase your books or possibly, get a read or something?
Right. This book should be available. It's not going to be exclusively on Amazon, so it should be available on iBooks and Sony and Nook and Kobo, all the places that it will be at this point just an ebook. Eventually I will make it into a paperback book or, a picture book for, kids. But it is, I also want to, comment that Eddie Earth is going to be a series, which is going to be fun because Eddie Earth is going to take the kids under the sea. And Eddie Earth is going to take the kids, into the world of flying bugs and things like that. So I think that it's, as we get deeper into it, it's going to be a lot of fun. And but I absolutely love the solar system because, writing sci-fi, I find it so fascinating.
Okay, and talking about sci-fi, going back to that just a bit. What did you get into writing sci-fi in the later stages of your book writing career, or did you just kind of start out with want to write sci-fi as well?
My extent of sci-fi was Star Wars and Star Trek. Probably that was it. And I wasn't a real big sci-fi fan, but I liked it and I enjoyed it. But I never saw myself writing it. And then when I came up with this concept for Hash, I can't get enough of it. It's phenomenal. Just everything that you realize how small we are when you are researching what the universe is about, or even our solar system, our galaxy. It's just amazing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And going back now, so I'll ask you this question since you mentioned Star Trek. Were you a Trekkie?
No, I really wasn't. But I enjoyed Star Trek, but I wasn't a Trekkie. I watched it, once in a while. It wasn't like something where I had to watch it, I absolutely love Star Wars, but I mean that was literally the extent of my my experience with sci-fi.
Okay.
But now I can't get enough of it.
It sounds like, in talking about Eddie Earth again, it sounds like that is going to be a book that will really delve the children into that world. Because like you say, you talk about flying, and kids love that. And I think, in my opinion, I think we need to go back to that. Nowadays, books and even certain TV shows have gone so far with taking the children outside of really a children's realm. Even the learning books have taken kids way beyond what, in my opinion, is the level that they kind of need to still be able to lean on. I mean, you need books like Eddie Earth to teach kids and give them lessons, take them into the future just a little bit, but not be too advanced for them is where they're learning too much too fast, if you understand what I'm saying.
Exactly. I agree.
You know?
I agree. I have a 9-year-old nephew who I'm using as a guinea pig, if you will. and so I'm having him, every page I put together, I'm having him read it, and he gets excited, and, he can't wait to turn the next page. And so that makes it, really, really fun and exciting. And I can't wait for this book to get out there. I love Eddie Earth. He's just, all of the characters are so much fun.
Yeah, because, when you compare that, like I say, to what kids are kind of watching on TV nowadays, I don't see, years ago I used to be able to see little animals and bees and little things like that,
right.
On TV where kids could learn about, but I don't see that. And nowadays kids are watching TV a whole lot. So for you to be able to put this book out and attract that interest back to where it needs to be, I think it's a monumental step, really, as a matter of fact. And
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope there's two things. I hope that kids have this, this interest, this deep-rooted interest after they read Eddie Earth, to know more about our planet and the solar system and just, space in general. And then I also hope it brings them to reading. If they're not readers, I hope it brings them to reading and have that as something that they enjoy as a pastime.
Yeah, because we're really falling away from that. Now, let me ask you, can you see possibly, taking one of your books, would you like to see them turned into possibly a film one day in the future?
Well, I think every author has that dream.
Okay.
Right. I do. And it's funny because I will, I'll be looking at, movies on Netflix, or I'll go to Redbox, or I'll go wherever, and I'll be looking at movies, or even if I go to the movie theater and I'll say, this was a best-selling book, and I get all, my son says, Mom, you're jealous. But I mean, I'm happy for them, of course, and I'm excited for them. And of course, I think every author hopes that at some point they can see their characters come to life, even though they're alive to us as we're writing them, come to life for other people on the big screen.
Mm-hmm. Now, before we go, I have to ask you about dividing destiny.
Okay.
Where did what was the inspiration behind that book, and just give us a little bit about it.
Dividing Destiny came. My mom actually had a dream about two women who got into a car crash, and one was older and one was younger, and they switched bodies. And so I took that. That's my what if. And I took that and I developed this whole entire series, kind of a book. It's kind of a mystery type thriller book, and where two women do get into a car crash, and there's a lot involved, but they switch bodies, and I wrote Dividing Destiny. So there's two meanings behind Dividing Destiny. The girl's name, one of the main characters' name is Destiny. So Dividing Destiny, and then also her destiny.
Oh wow. Okay. So this book right here, it's thrilling and serious at the same time.
It is. Yeah, it is. She has a cold case. She's a private investigator. She has a cold case on her desk, and she can't put it away. And the reason she can't put it away is it's the death of her father. And so she is trying to bring to justice, her father's killer, and she's trying to, figure out the mystery behind his death. And so these different things happen that lead her in that direction.
Oh, wow. That sounds amazing. What advice, and there's no real easy answer to this question, because what you do, it takes a lot of thought, it takes, a whole bunch of creativity, and definitely time out of your day, every day of your life, as a matter of fact. So again, I say there's no real easy answer to this question, but what advice would you have for, those that are trying to pursue the career that you've been so successful in? I mean, writing 30 books in that span of time. Like, what advice would you have for people as to buckling down and really taking it seriously if they wanted to do this?
I know everybody hears this all the time, but it's so true. It's, my advice would be to write every single day. And even if it's, 300 words, you need to sit down and write. You have to first develop the habit. And then it also, in doing that, it makes you a stronger writer. It makes you have a better understanding of the craft. And so I think that is probably the most important thing, is just to sit down and write every single day.
Okay, and that's even, even if it could be possibly what happened during that day, to just kind of get into the mode of writing.
Absolutely. Journal, or just write, turn, one situation that happened to you on the freeway, make it into a little tiny short story, make it into this little 2-page story, and see how everything unfolds, see how your mind, works with making that story unfold. Just take something that happens in your day and just turn it into like a little tiny mini story, and start there.
Okay. Were you, I'm going to close it out with this question. Were you good at grammar in school?
No. And I wasn't bad, but I wasn't good. And I'm so thankful to my editor even to this day, but I've learned a lot, and I write pretty clean, and I know my editor thanks me all the time. So I've learned a lot just in this process. I think I've grown as a person with my grammar, and but every author does have an editor, or should have an editor. So
yeah, right. I know that's right. I need an editor just to update my Facebook page.
Oh, me too. Oh, trust me.
Absolutely. I go in there sometimes. Did I write that? And spell check kills you. Thank goodness you're not using spell check to write a book, right?
I know. I get like really, if I noticed I spelled something wrong, I freak out. I'm trying to get on there and edit it because, I know people know I write, so then they're thinking, what, are you a writer or what?
You know what? And when you do that, have you noticed that's always the time that it wants, that the social network or Facebook wants to jam up on you when you're trying to go back and redo something?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I go crazy. I'm turning the power off and everything else. Like, oh my goodness, how many people are going to like this before I,
Yeah, exactly.
So that's amazing. Listen, April, first of all, we want to, start by giving you kudos and give a super huge congratulations on all your, your success, and we wish you so much more.
Thank you.
30 books over this time. I'm still going crazy over the fact, because that's a lot of books. I don't write again, but it seems like a lot to me. And you're doing your thing. And just judging by the title, and just your attitude, and then you're down to earth about it too. No ego way to the cloud and things of that nature. So, we appreciate that. Now, once again, let everybody know where they can follow you on the social network sites, your websites to go to, and just everywhere.
Great. Awesome. Well, April and Rain is, if you put that on the back of anything, then you should be brought to me. So aprilandrain.com is my website, and then Facebook, at Facebook /AprilandRain .author. And then Twitter is April and Rain, and Instagram, April and Rain, Pinterest, April and Rain. So that's, if you just put that at the end.
Okay. All right. That sounds like a plan.
Yeah.
And look, do come back. Can we expect you to come back? You got an invite to come back anytime you like.
Thank you. I would love to.
Absolutely. And, as soon as the next projects come out, then we'd love to hear about them. I want to let everybody out there know, make sure you go find her books. Read some wonderful stories out there. Any producers and filmmakers out there listening, make sure you go check out her writings and books and literatures as well. Sounds like they'd be wonderful to turn into a good feature film. So we look forward to that. And
there you go.
Once again, April, we thank you for being on the show today. You're a wonderful, wonderful personality and guest.
Thank you so much.
And we thank you so much.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.